Well, welcome everyone to class today, and wherever you're joining, dropping in. First of all, props for today would be helpful to have a couple of blocks and a strap, a yoga strap. If you have one that attaches the buckle, keeps the strap from opening up or moving when we use it as a support. If you don't have a yoga strap, I'd recommend getting a strap for work, 8-foot strap with a buckle. I also have a chair today, and I have a pillow, like a couch pillow. If you had a bolster, that would work as well. And today we're working with, well, actually the next couple classes, we're going to work with the diaphragms in the body. Depending on what your source is, there's anywhere from 8 to 12 diaphragms in the body. And those behave sort of like sort of a creature, we'll call it like a jellyfish, that pull energy and settle energy, right? So if you think about actually the bottom of your foot, or the foot itself, is a diaphragm. And if you start, we will start with the sole of the foot today. We'll do some work with the plantar fascia. So if you imagine that you had little feet going up and down your body, right? That's the action of the diaphragm. Take a look at this video real quick here. Yeah, so that's amazing, right? And that is how that, if we think about in the felt sense that we practice in yoga, the diaphragms expanding and contracting just like that jellyfish. We have that kind of action happening in the body. So if you placed your hands right here in front of your chest, either interlacing your fingers or laying one hand on top of the other, the respiratory diaphragm, when we inhale, the doming shape of the diaphragm presses down in the abdominal cavity, right, allowing air to flow into the lungs. And then on the exhale, it relaxes back to its original shape. And this diaphragm is the one we're probably most familiar with. And that action is happening all the time in our body. Some anatomists say that every place there's a diaphragm occurring in the body, there's a potential structural change or structural junction. So if you think about all that is articulating around the respiratory diaphragm, it's connected to your ribs and your thoracic spine, and it's got a lot of movement. And so there's the potential for some stickiness there, some interruption, or some problems. So lots out there on the internet you can access if you're more interested in exploring some other things about diaphragms. We're going to work with feet today and knees. So the knee has a diaphragm. Feet, knees, and pelvic floor. And so there'll be a lot of leg work, and hope you enjoy. I'll meet you over on your mat, on your back. So just come to your back and take the knees, stack your knees over your chest. On your next inhale, draw your knees in. And on your next inhale, press your knees away. Feel the motion in your pelvis. So we'll kind of move around, jump around, feet, knees, pelvic floor. And as we move, especially with this subtle work, this beginning work, see if you can get a sense of the jellyfish-like action in the diaphragms of the lower body. Or maybe you just feel it in your respiratory diaphragm, that's fine too. Tapping into this felt sense that we work with in yoga. Okay, then we'll take soles of the feet to the floor. Knees are still bent. Your arms can be anywhere that's comfortable for you. And on your next inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, lower the heels, lift the toes. Inhale, lift your heels. Exhale, lower your heels, lift your toes. Go slow enough that you can really feel this movement in your feet. Now, as you continue to lift the heels on the inhale, drop heels, lift toes on the exhale, what's happening correspondingly in your pelvis? Next time you lift your heels, you'll probably feel a little arching away from the floor. And then when you drop your heels and lift your toes, you'll feel a lengthening of your spine and a pressing down towards the floor. Again, see if you can touch in to that felt sense of that jellyfish-like action, feet, a bit in the knees even, and up into the pelvic floor. Next time you lift your heels, notice how now even up into the upper spine and your neck, as I lift my heels and my low back comes away from the floor, there's a little rocking of my head. I tuck my chin in towards my chest. Drop heels, lift toes, lengthening through my low back, and a lifting of my chin slightly. This is the most common way that this is going to translate up through your spine. Yours might look a little different, but see if you can really find this little pattern. Okay, then we'll let that go. Take the feet a little bit wider and just let your knees move back and forth, a little bit bigger action here. Releasing any tension or holding that sometimes when we do that really subtle work, it can be pretty tiring. So just a little big movement here. And then you reach for your strap and we'll take the strap around both feet. Stretch legs up to the ceiling, vertical, or if you can't quite get to vertical, that's fine. And feel here in this Supta Dandasana. Supta just means on our back, Supta Dandasana. Pressing through your feet, can you feel a little lifting of your low back away from the floor? And then we'll just bend our knees, pull knees in towards chest. and then straighten, press legs straight again. So working with the knees. Great. Now, make sure you have your tail of your let's put the tail on the left side so you can see it in the recording here. So tail of your strap on the left side. And then you've got this big loop right in front of you. You're gonna let your right leg come towards your chest. Just slip it out of your foot, but keep your leg really connected to, it's inside the loop. And then you drop your left leg to the floor. Here's where you might have to adjust the belt. Drop your left leg to the floor. So right leg is up towards the ceiling, sole of the foot towards the ceiling. And now your leg that's on the floor, that foot is in the loop, and the loop comes around the upper thigh of the right leg. And then you'll tighten the strap until you can feel a little tensioning between the two, the foot and the upper thigh. Great, got it. Press the lower leg, press that foot into the strap, really give some tension, some feedback there, and feel the sling around the upper thigh. Take your hands behind your right leg, if possible. If you can't quite make that, you could grab your pant leg. Feel that, and then just start to point and flex at the ankle. Point your toes, flex at the ankle, feel for some movement in the ankle. Good, and then you could take your ankle around in some circles, and as you circle towards the midline, turn the sole of your foot towards the midline, and you circle back, toes come back towards you, and then as you straighten your foot out again or lengthen there, you press your sole of your foot towards the outside of your body laterally. So you're coming around in a circle, and you're everting and inverting at the ankle. So as I start to turn my toes towards midline, and then I flex, then I shine the sole of my foot to the outside as I extend through my toes, and then I just keep that circle going around. Come back to center, and now just bend the right knee in towards your chest. You'll feel the tension of the strap, and then extend the leg, and then bend and extend. So just articulating through your knee, your right knee. And you can take a little glance here and see if your knee and your ankle are in one line. Even if you have the yoga pants on, I'll never forget one of my first yoga classes. And I had these baggy pants on. And Rodney Yee, I was taking a class with Rodney Yee, and he was like, "You can't do yoga in those kind of pants. You have to be able to see what your body is looking like, what it's doing. You know, you have to have tight pants on." And I was so new to the practice, and I was like, now, as you bend and extend the knee, can you also articulate through your ankle? And there might be straight ankle flexed, straight leg flexed ankle, and then bend at the knee, point. Or it might be the other way around. Good. Great. Then we'll just soften the up leg and then bring both legs back into the strap. Supta Dandasana. Press your feet into the strap. Feel an opening behind the knees. Okay, so we're opening the space behind the knees, that diaphragm. Take a few breaths here. Wiggle the toes. And then we'll have to just flip the strap so that the tail now is on the left side. So have your tail on the left side. And then same thing, you see the loop right in front of your body. Keep your right foot in the loop and you just bring your left leg towards your chest a little bit so that you can lay yours. You might want to lengthen the loop here a little bit first before you go down to the ground. Right leg goes down to the ground and the belt captures the sole of the right foot and the upper thigh. Sorry, all my clothing is dark here today. And then, so the belt is on the upper thigh of my extended leg, my left leg, and then I tighten the strap so I feel the tension between foot on the ground and leg in the air. Okay, so press your foot firmly into the strap and reach your other leg towards the ceiling, and then just begin to point and flex. So extension in the ankle, flexion in the ankle. Really feel, and you might even close your eyes and feel how this movement in the ankle, you can feel it in your knee as well. Feel your thigh muscle, front of your thigh, maybe even the hamstring working. And then begin those circles again. So as you flex your foot, you sort of draw, turn your sole of your foot in towards the midline, then point, and then sole the foot out towards lateral. Make these circles, and we call it inverting and everting. So we don't probably consciously work too much with the ankles, and yet, the feet, the hands, ankles, they have the majority of bones in the body. So there's a lot of articulation here, and our feet take us everywhere, really. Really important function for all the things we like to do standing up. Then soften a bit, and then we'll just bring the knee in towards the chest a bit, and we'll flex and extend through the knee. And again, if you want to add the movement of the ankle, coordination. Yeah. And then we'll just soften there so we can bring both feet up, come back to the Supta Dandasana, press your feet into the strap. If you wanted to add a little work for your biceps, you could bend your elbows. We don't work the biceps very much in yoga. Bend your elbows and create a little isometric work there. You could have your arms straight, either one, but press your feet into the strap. Feel a little arching in your low back as you come away from the floor, a little bit of anterior tilt in the pelvis, and opening up the back of the knees. And then you can bend your knees, take your strap over to the side, and bring the soles of the feet back to the floor. Arms can be in the goalpost position. And again, just some windshield wipers here. Just a little bit of back and forth movement with Okay, and then we're gonna be a little bit more conscientious or intentional with that movement. So wide stance with the feet, and then let your knees fall to the left. Okay, keep the left leg where it is, and sort of feather the right knee. So as you pick up your right knee and then reach across midline again, really reach your right knee towards the lower left corner of your mat. And take a couple of breaths here. You should have a little arch in your low back away from the floor. Good, inhale back to center, and then knees over to the right. Keep your right knee down and just feather a little bit. Feel movement in the head of the femur, the big leg bone, upper leg bone, and then leave your left leg in, coming across midline. Reach for the lower right corner of your mat. Maybe this opens up some lower belly, psoas, tightness here. Good. And come back to center. Bring both feet, soles of both feet to the floor, and just a few pelvic tilts to neutralize your spine, your low back, pelvis. Pelvic tilts, so anterior, posterior tilting. So lots of times we do a lot of asymmetrical movement in yoga, of course, and there's some real value in that to try to find balance or create some balance where there's imbalance. And then it's nice to come back to do a very symmetrical movement to set ourselves again. So rolling to one side, you come up and we'll take hands and knees and begin to work some cat-cow. Inhale to the cow and exhale, round and press up to cat. And as you do this, you probably just popped up and set yourself in table like you always do. Next time you're in cat, look back at your feet and notice whether you have one foot turned in or both feet in, and can you line up your feet right behind your knees so your ankles are in line with your knees. Good. The next time you come to cow, pause there, exhale, and just let your hips come slightly back towards your heels, bend slightly in the elbows, and then inhale back up to cow. Exhale, press your hips back towards your heels a little bit further. The elbows come a little bit further towards the floor, but not all the way back. And inhale, cow. So we're just working in the knees here, a little bit of warm up into the knees as we kind of sneak our way back. Going nice and slow to articulate through the knee diaphragm. Good. The next time you set your hips back towards your heels, elbows first to the floor and then hips back towards heels, or close enough there. Now, if this bothers your knees, you want to have a pillow or something in between thighs and calves. Okay, so it shouldn't hurt your knees. Good. Then we'll inhale to come back up to table. If you have a blanket covering your mat here, now would be the time to fold that blanket up. And if you don't have the blanket covering your mat, but you have a blanket, it would be nice for the next part of class to have this blanket available for knees. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take my knees down to the blanket. I'm back in table position. I'm going to inhale to cow. And then turning all 10 toes under if possible. I'm going to press up and back to downward facing dog. Okay. Inhale, press your heels up as high as possible. So come up onto your toes. Exhale, bend through your knees. Bend through your knees, hover, hover, hover. And then reach your heels down towards the floor. Down towards the floor as much as possible. A lot of flexion in the ankles. And then re-straighten your legs. Inhale, come up onto your toes. Bend through your knees, hover the knees. Reach your heels down towards the floor. And then straighten legs. Come up onto your toes. Bend through your knees and hover over the floor. Reach your heels down towards the floor as much as possible with the knees bent, right? And then as you straighten your legs, reach your heels towards the floor. Maybe they'll go all the way. Maybe they'll go partial way. Now you're going to feel some stretch in the calves for sure. Inhale, press yourself up onto your toes. Exhale, fold in your knees, bend your knees and hover. Reach your heels back down towards the floor as you re-straighten your legs and reach your heels even stronger towards the floor. Good, we'll do one more. Inhale, come up onto your toes. Exhale, bend through your knees and hover your knees above the floor. Reach your heels down towards the floor as you re-straighten your legs. Set the hips back. Ooh, downward facing dog. Great. Then we'll inhale, come to cow. And then bring your feet together, ankles touching, big toes touching, and come back onto your heels, resting your hips on your heels. Very nice. Shake out your hands. Any tension there. And now you'll need either a bolster or a pillow. I have a big pillow here and your block. I'm going to set my pillow behind. Take my block. This takes a little bit of coordination, so be patient with it. And I'm going to bring my block into this widest setting, and that's going to go between my ankles. Okay, and I'm going to sort of keep the block between my ankles here. My blanket might be a little bit in the way. I'm going to set my sit bones on the block, and my feet are on this this pillow, so the tops of my feet. I could also use my blanket for this. If you had a folded blanket, I'll just scoot forward. So here we go. I'm setting my sit bones on the blocks. Yeah, the blanket works nicely, and my tops of my feet on the blanket. So it's just a little bit more opening in the tops of the feet. If it's too much, just remove the prop, the blanket, whatever you've got. You could play around with a different height. So for me, kind of like the pillow. Really can feel a stretch in the tops of my feet. Opening the tops of my feet. Our feet get really congested as we get older. So again, those diaphragms in the body do get very congested. So this is a opening for the tops of the feet. Great. Now let's come forward and set the block over to the side. Turn somewhere in between your prop here. You could have your blanket for your knees, or you could be using your blanket for this. Turn toes under, so broken toe pose, and then hips come to heels. Now, that could be too much for many of us, so we can take the pillow, the bolster, the blanket in between thighs and calves. And that's a little bit more manageable for me. Or you might need to stay forward on your hands and knees. Just find the spot that works for you, that gives you some sensation of opening in the bottoms of your feet. If it's okay for you to sit up with either a prop or without a prop, you take your blocks behind you and hands to blocks, and then open up through your chest. So you're sort of in a sort of an Ustrasana shape, camel shape. Very nice. And my pillow is pretty large to do this, so I'm going to move my pillow out of the way and set my blocks up again. You can play with this, play with the recording, maybe something else between the legs if need be. But now I'm going to come up onto the blocks, lift my hips. And now I've got the toes turned under, and now I'm in another variation of the Ustrasana. Beautiful. I'll pop myself out of that. Take my blocks to the front of my mat. Hands down to the mat, tops of the feet. Get a little bit of relief here from the broken toe pose. And then you can turn your toes under, press up and back, downward facing dog. Okay, from here, I've got my folded blanket. I'm going to slide my folded blanket about to the top third of my mat. Take my two blocks in front of that and walk my feet up to my blanket and take the balls of my feet, toes onto the blanket, and hands to the blocks in a halfway lift. Keep the back of your neck long, so this is a stretch for the calves. And if you're not feeling anything, you could make the blanket a little bit thicker, or if you had a bolster, that would work. And here we go again, setting the toes onto the blanket. Ooh, coming into this halfway lift. Now pull your kneecaps up and keep the legs engaged. Now I feel this in my calves. Now look down at your feet. Have your ankles collapsed in or out? Can you line your ankles up? So lift the inner arches, lift the outer arches. Keep that dome shape in the sole of your foot and keep ankle lined up with knee. Beautiful. Okay. And from here, we'll step the feet off the prop, bend through your knees, set your hips back. You could scoot your blanket out of the way now and press up through Utkatasana to Tadasana standing. Okay, I'll meet you in Tadasana. So standing in Tadasana, hands forward. Ooh, press your feet into the floor, really ground, and lift the arches, lift the kneecaps, keep the engagement in those two domes, lift the pelvic floor, and then inhale, sweep your arms up and come up onto your toes. Exhale, lower halfway, twist to the right. Inhale, lift your arms up, sweep your arms up and lift up onto your toes. Exhale, lower the heels halfway and turn to the left. Inhale, sweep the arms up, press up. Exhale, lower halfway, twist to the right. Inhale, sweep the arms up, lift up onto your toes. Exhale, lower halfway, twist to the left. Good, enough of that. Woo. Set the feet down wide, and you can take a few circles through your hips, maybe some bouncing, okay, some dancing, some shaking. Good, all right. And then we're going to come into the Vera one. I'm going to move my blocks out of the way. And I'm going to have my right foot forward, my left foot back in a Vera one stance. So try to use your whole mat here, have your feet wide. Back foot can be toes turned out slightly or toes in the same line as the front foot. You're going to have to play with what feels best in your body. Okay. So now, as I inhale, I'm going to sweep my arms up, shift forward, lift my back heel. On the exhale, I'm going to set the back heel down at the same time as I bend through the front knee and bring my hands into goalpost arms. Now look at your knee. You want your knee to be tracking right over your ankle and not coming in, not going out, not forward of the ankle, not behind. So here's where you might have to adjust your stance a little bit. On your next inhale, straighten the front leg and reach the arms up. And then on your exhale, float arms down to your sides. Okay, we'll go through that a few times with my instructions and then a few more times on your own. Inhale, sweep arms up, lift the back heel. Exhale, set the back heel down as you bend through the front leg and bring arms into goalpost. Inhale, straighten front leg, lift arms up. Exhale, let arms float down to your sides. Inhale, sweep arms up, come up onto the toes with the back foot. Exhale, set the back heel down, bend through the front knee, arms in the goalpost position. Inhale, straighten through front leg, lift arms up. Exhale, float arms down. Okay, you got it? You can go at your own pace for a few more times. And we'll meet in with the arms down to your sides, both legs straight. Then take an inhale, bend through the front knee slightly, step forward, and land into Tadasana. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, bend through your knees, hands through heart center, and just come into Utkatasana. Now check your knees here, make sure they're tracking right over your ankles. Inhale, sweep the arms up, stand up. Exhale, bend through your knees, hands to heart center. Set your hips back, just a little bit of flexion and extension in the knees. Inhale, sweep arms up, straighten the legs. Exhale, bend through your knees, set your hips down. Just a few more times. You don't have to go very deep. We're just working with the diaphragm, knee diaphragm, and you'll feel this in your ankles as well. Good, and last time, inhale up, and now just let your hands come through heart center, resting at your side waist, Tadasana. Good, we'll take the other side with the Vera one feet. So left foot forward, right foot back. Okay. Same pattern. Inhale, lift the back heel, lift the arms up. Exhale, set the back heel down, bend through the right knee, and come into goalpost arms. Now, notice, I get to look at the recording here, so I could see that my knee was a little bit behind. Okay, and then inhale, straighten both legs, lift arms up. Exhale, hands down to your sides. Inhale, sweep the arms up, lift the back heel. Exhale, set the back heel down as you bend through the front knee and come into goalpost arms. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, release arms down to your sides. Inhale, sweep arms up, lift back heel. Exhale, set back heel down as you bend through the front knee and come into goalpost arms, all happening at the same time. Inhale, straighten the front leg, lift the arms up overhead, and exhale, let the arms float down. Try that a couple times, same pattern on your own timing and rhythm. Next time both legs are straight, arms have floated down to the side, bend slightly through the front knee as you inhale and step forward into Tadasana. Great, now find your Utkatasana one more time, just a little bit of bend in the knees, arms are forward, okay, or you could bring your hands to your hips, it's your choice, and just shift your weight from one foot to the other foot. Feel a solid connection, ankle, knee, hip. Okay, good. And then shift your weight to your left foot. Hover your right foot. And then keeping the front knee bent, you're going to step the right foot all the way back into warrior one. Let's inhale and come forward and try it again. Step up, straighten legs, just come to Tadasana for a minute. Palms are forward, ears over shoulders, a little bit of a double chin happening. And then just sit down into an easy Utkatasana. Shift your weight into your left foot. Reach the right foot up. Shift your hips back as you step the right foot back into warrior one. Really graceful, right? Really dynamic movement. Inhale to come forward. Exhale, release arms down to the side. Tadasana, let's try it on the other side. So inhale, sit back, arms up, sit back, sit down in your little Utkatasana. Shift your weight to your right foot, lift your left foot, and then draw your hips back as you step back into Vira one. So we're going to the same position with the legs as we practiced in slow motion, sort of with that previous vinyasa. Inhale to come back up. We'll try another time on that side. Find Tadasana first. Inhale as you sweep the arms up. Exhale, set the hips back and down. Press firmly into your right foot. Feel the strength in your right foot. Lift your left leg. Then draw your hips back like you're going back into Utkatasana. Reach the left foot back and find warrior one on this side. Good. Inhale, step forward. Exhale, release hands through heart center, down to the sides of your body, Tadasana. Good work, everyone. Good. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, bend generously through your knees as you come down. Set the hands down and step or jump back to downward facing dog. Inhale, come up onto your toes and land in the plank position. Good. Then exhale, knees to the floor, and slowly bring your hips back towards your heels. Forearms come to the floor first, tops of the feet down, slide your hips back, child's pose. Now here, take your toes, big toes together. Good. And then everyone will slide forward onto our belly. Make a little pillow with your hands and rest your forehead on that pillow. Press your elbows firmly into the floor. Draw your tailbone down towards your heels. Tops of the feet. Get a sense of the feet really lined up. The feet are really lined up with the knees, the ankles with the knees. Press your feet so hard into the floor that your kneecaps come off the floor. Good. Then inhale the right leg up and let it come back down. Inhale the left leg up and release. Go back and forth a few times. Beautiful. Then let everything relax, bend through your knees, and just take your knees, your feet back and forth, releasing any tension in your low back. Okay. And then you've got your knees bent and your feet, the soles of your feet pointing towards the ceiling. Okay. Inhale, press your head and shoulders up. Exhale, anchor. So press your pubic bone into the floor. Inhale, press right heel up or right sole of the foot up to the ceiling. So you're lifting your right thigh just off the floor, and exhale, release back down. Inhale, press left sole of the foot up towards the ceiling, and exhale back down. And go back and forth a few times. Working the hamstring. So one of the ways we can support, especially the knees, but really all of the ankle, the knees, the hips, the lower legs, is to keep all the musculature strong in the legs. And we tend to, all of us have a little imbalance based on what it is we do. Once you've done an even number, you can windshield wiper, feet back and forth, rest your head on your pillow, or take your legs long and just rock your hips back and forth a little bit, get a little watery motion in there. So based on what we do, I'm a cyclist, I ride my bike a lot, so I have strong outer hips, right? And I have strong quads, but my hamstrings sometimes lag behind, okay? Rest your forehead on your head and squeeze muscle to bone so you feel your kneecaps lift off the floor. And then slide your hands to low ribs. Inhale, press into Bhujangasana. Draw your tailbone down towards your heels. Press, press, press. Press your feet into the floor. Feel your kneecaps lifted, and then float your feet up. Squeezing the glutes, squeezing the legs, squeezing the muscle to bone, all through your legs. Good. And then we'll release down, turn one cheek to the mat. Softly move your hips back and forth. Come through center, other cheek to the mat. Great. Now, just on your tummy here, just lift high enough that you can slide an arm underneath the opposite arm and roll over to your back. Okay, roll over to your back. Great. You're going to come to position of comfort, knees bent, and take your feet maybe a couple of fist distance apart or one fist distance apart, enough so that when you exhale, you're going to let your knees fall out towards Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet pointing towards one another. And then inhale to bring your legs back together. So the soles of the feet stay on the floor until you start to let the knees fall out. Then you're on the outer edges of your feet. And then you bring the knees back together. Good. Now, we're going to do this really slowly. You can come back and revisit the recording. But when your knees are out in the Baddha Konasana, take about a 10 to 12 count to bring your legs back together. Really slow. So often the inner seam of the leg is weaker. These are our adductors. Good, and we'll do that just a couple times. And if you come back to revisit, maybe you could even take 30 seconds or a minute to bring your legs back together. Great, then we'll come back to the starting position. We're going to do a couple of bridge variations. So starting just with your knees lined up with your hips and the feet, the ankles lined up with the knees. So the sort of standard, we'll have arms to side. Then lift the heels. Feel the movement in your pelvis. Lift the toes. Okay. Come back. Let's set your feet down. Now lift your toes again and press your heels firmly into the floor. Feel, maybe take your hand even to feel the back line of your legs. If you've got the hamstrings engaged. You could isometrically draw your heels towards your sitting bones to get the hamstrings engaged. Okay, now you got that. Set your feet back down. Keep that engagement in the hamstrings. Slight tilt in the pelvis forward as you press up with your hips and come into bridge. The chin is tucked in towards the chest. You can lift the toes here and set them back down. Lift the toes and set them back down. Now, as you press and lift, keep the inner arches lifting so you feel or see in your mind's eye the arching, the doming of your feet. Now one vertebra at a time to come back down. Really massage through your spine, come all the way back down, one vertebra at a time. And then rest the knees together. Just a little bit of pelvic movement here. So inhaling and exhaling, a little bit of tilting here. Feel that pulsation in that diaphragm. Great, then we'll separate the knees and take the feet a little bit wider. A little bit wider. Set yourself up the same way with your arms. Press into your heels, lift your toes, feel your hamstrings engage. Feel the hamstrings. If you don't feel them, you might isometrically bring your heels back towards your sitting bones. Then bring the rest of your foot down to the floor, right and left. Yep, keep that hamstring engagement. There's a little forward tilt in the pelvis as you press your hips up to the bridge. Release your toes. Knees are tracking towards the lower portion of your mat, the short end of your mat. Chin tucked in, lift, lift, lift. And slowly release. One vertebra at a time. Come all the way down, all the way down. Just unfurling through your spine. Resting the knees together. And a little bit of watery movement, pelvic tilting, feeling, or just breathing into and feeling the movement of the pelvic floor, that jellyfish-like movement as that doming moves, that doming action in and out, up and down, very watery. And we'll separate the knees and we'll go as wide as the edge of our mat. So a little bit wider. Arms stay in the same position. Press into your heels, draw them isometrically back towards your sit bones. Feel your hamstrings engaged here. A little forward tilt in the pelvis as you press up. Lifting the hips, lifting the hips. Feet are active. You've got the domes of the feet. You've got the arches lifted. It's doming action in the feet. Knees are drawing towards the low end of your mat, lower end of your mat. Lift a little higher. And then slowly bring everything back down, one vertebra at a time. One vertebra at a time. Yep, everything one vertebra at a time. Now stretch your legs long. Release your hands to your sides and just feel the pulsing in your feet, your knees, on the floor. Good. Now we'll finish with a twist. So it's up to you. If you wanted to work a little bit more with some of the knee, you could take Gomukhasana legs, right over left, and drop knees to the right. Squeeze the legs together. So we got a twisting action in the spine, and we've got some support around the knees, or we're squeezing the legs together. If that feels too much in your back, you can release top leg and just stack knees. And as you finish in this twist here, you could press your shoulder blades into the floor and lift. So I've got right leg over left, my knees to the right. So I'm going to press into my shoulder blades, lift my upper body, set it back down. I'm reaching my left ribs towards the floor, and my right ribs kind of pressed. My right ribs, back ribs are really connected to the floor. I can feel that. So I'm not so much on my side body, but I'm really trying to get the back body, these left ribs in particular, to reach down towards the floor, scoop my belly to the left. Again, you can always do this with just the knees stacked. But the same thing, can you draw your left rib cage down towards the floor? Great. And then inhale, top leg, back to center, a couple of pelvic tilts. Just re-center. And then if you did the Gomukhasana legs, right? Right over left now. Knees to the left. And that same thing. I'm going to see if I can square my shoulder blades to the floor and draw right ribs down towards the floor. Squeeze your legs. Really squeeze the legs together. Get the support of all the musculature in your upper legs here. Again, you can always just stack the knees. Squeezing the legs. And when you release, when we release this, don't release it yet, but when we release, see if you can just really feel the pulsation, particularly in your knees and your pelvic bowl, your pelvic floor, as we've been squeezing. So inhale, top leg up, come back to center, a few little pelvic tilts. And then see if you can really feel that pulsation. I really feel it in my lower abdomen, pelvic floor area, a little bit in my knees. Then we can draw knees into chest and bring forearms underneath the knee space. We're rocking side to side. Maybe feet moving in some circles. This is sort of a happy baby variation, right? You could then take traditional shavasana, stretching your legs long. You could take your legs up a wall, or if you're close to your couch, you could bring your legs up onto a piece of furniture and finish in shavasana this way. But really allow yourself now to really let everything go, resting in your shavasana. Arms are heavy, legs are heavy. So just resting in shavasana. I'm going to finish with some oming, and you're welcome to join in if you want to, or just allow the vibration of the oming to bring some awareness to that jellyfish-like action of all of the diaphragms in your body, and particularly the lower body where we've been practicing today, but maybe all the way up through your body as well. That idea of these jellyfish, this jellyfish-like movement happening all the time in your body. So. Oh. Namaste.